So welcome everybody. This is the final series. This is the final lesson, the final segment. We hope that this program has been super dynamic and super fun for you. And we hope that you have been able to engage with your peers and all of our guest presenters who have been sharing information about what their Sparks is. Today, we have a super special guest that we want to share with y'all, and he's going to talk a lot about his career and how his spark has really put him in position. And his career is super duper cool and super dope. He works for a brand that you're coming familiar with every single day, and it's probably one of the most popular brands out there. We are all known to love it. We love his motto and everything that we stand for. So we want to introduce our keynote for today, Richard Palmer.
How's it going?
It's going well, Richard. Thank you so much for joining us. We want to just start off by allowing you to tell us about yourself.
Yeah, definitely. So my name is Richard Palmer. So I'm currently the brand manager at Nike, managing the Foot Locker account. So when you think of anything like Air Max Day or NBA All-Star or Super Bowl, those are the projects I tend to work on my side at Nike. So I've been at Nike for about 5 years now. And before Nike, I worked for the Cleveland Cavaliers. I worked for UNC Chapel Hill. I worked for Reebok. I interned at Converse. And I interned at Modell Sporting Goods as well. I'm a proud alum of Howard University. And I also got my MBA from Seton Hall University as well.
Awesome. That is a lot. And I think that I've got a different focus on what exactly it is that you do, because I think I thought something very different. So I'm excited to hear all that you're getting ready to share as well. But we're going to get started with our first question, which was, when was the first time you realized your spark?
To be honest with you, it was the first time I saw MJ play basketball, right? I get paid to talk about sneakers and talk about basketball. That's my job, right? But I remember when being younger, watching them play ball, right? Watching MJ, looking at the shoes on the court, and that tended to me going into reading Slam magazines, right? Then seeing Penny Hardaway, then seeing LeBron. So it was just one of those things where the spark was, I knew I wanted to work in sports and work at Nike. It was just a matter of figuring out how to get there. But my spark, I knew what I wanted to do for so long. It's just a matter of figuring out, and I knew that, hey, Nike is where I wanted to be. Working with sports, having a job where I enjoy going to every day, that's my spark. That's what I wanted to do, and I've been blessed to make that my career going so far.
That is awesome. And I'm glad that you shared that too, because we know that that is a path that a lot of our youth want to follow into, right? It's like, I want to be in sports. I see Michael Jordan, I see Shaquille O'Neal, Allen Iverson. I want to be in sports. But today, I think that from this conversation, they will be able to see how expansive and large that area really is off the court. So I'm glad that you are able to kind of bring that to the table for us today.
Definitely. And to that point, I wanted to play ball. My ideal goal was to make it to the NBA. I had bad knees and, I couldn't make it. But I think a lot of times kids realize that you can work in sports without being on the court. And there's so many different levels and different elements where you come into the job and you're doing what you love. I mean, March Madness is going on right now. Like, you can work in college sports without having to be a ball player. So there's options out there.
Right. And finding the ability to pivot, right? Like you said, I wanted to play ball, but, just having physical limitations didn't really turn you away from the industry entirely. It gave you another opportunity to pivot. And sometimes, we know that some things happen for a reason as well.
Of course.
So let's see. How did your family play a part in helping discover your spark?
I had a village, right? And, I was blessed, and I'm aware that I had a village where I had a family, I had parents, I had grandparents, I had cousins who all understood what my love was, what my passion was, and they poured into me, right? I never heard that, hey, you work for Nike sounds crazy, right? I never heard anybody saying, hey, you want to work for the NBA. That's not going to happen. They're just saying, hey, how can we figure it out? How can we make sure we're showing love? And how can we help you get to your goal? And even to this day, as I continue my spark, right? Even though I'm working in this industry, it's still a job. I still get tired. I still get worn out. But I still have family members that tell me that they're proud of me, tell me to keep going on. have aunties on Facebook all day that's talking about my nephew works with Jordan, my nephew works with Nike, right? And it's annoying, but it lets you know that I'm doing something right, and it's great to have that village. And if everybody, I understand everybody's not blessed to have that, but it's all about finding your village within where you're at. Your village can be a teacher. Your village could be a friend. Your village could be a family co-worker of a family member. It's just finding that village and finding those people who believe in you, and then pouring into those folks, bringing them along for your journey to help you keep that spark going.
Right. And I think I'm so glad that you talked about like the village mindset and it being outside of your family, because we don't miss like the people who are supposed to elevate you. I know I see it a lot of times, especially those who are in the industry or recent grads or entrepreneurs. And it goes into like, oh, well, my family doesn't support me, or this specific person that I want doesn't support me. But don't forget about that assigned village who may not come in a familiar role, or, you know, like may not come the way that you want them to come. But sometimes it is a teacher. We know there are a lot of teachers that have inspired us to do great things.
Definitely, such as yourself. Yeah, such as yourself. What you guys are doing great work. And it's just to your point, it may not come the way you want it to come. You may, hey, I may want to get $1 million. I may want a car that looks like a Range Rover, but if I don't have Range Rover, I still have a car, right? So it's like when you say you want X amount of people to pour into you, don't focus on who's not pouring into you or who's not giving you support. Focus on the people who are giving you support. Lean into them and take that to the next level.
Definitely. That's awesome. Make sure you guys take note of that, because that will be essential. It's transferable no matter the industry, no matter the journey, to remember that. Keep your eyes on the people who are supporting you.
Definitely.
Our next question is, what would you tell your younger self now if you had the chance?
Honestly, I would tell them to keep going, right? Like, listen, I had a passion. I had something that some people may call an obsession. I love sneakers. I love basketball. That's what I'm into. And I understood that, hey, there's different levels to taking this to making it your career. So it's just like, hey, what I would tell my younger self is, don't be afraid to pour into those passions that you believe in. And also, as you're younger, don't focus on one thing, right? Also had other passions. So I like other sports. I like reading. I like, going out. I love music, right? Those are different things you can do and pour into, and that could be your career, right? And it's in the sense now where it's like, I love music. So say if I want to make a career change based on the network that I created, the people I know, if I want to work for a Spotify or YouTube Music or something like that, I have that opportunity. So it's like, don't sell yourself short to, live your dreams. And also, I grew up a little bit before social media really started popping off. So it's like, now for the kids now, don't focus on what's going on with social media. That's a highlight tape. Mm-hmm. A lot of people base all what they want or what they want to do based on what social media is going on, and it's about running your own race. People aren't going to show their L's on social, but they'll show their wins. So it's like, make sure, understand what you're looking at, use social media as a tool, and use that as a way to elevate yourself rather than looking at it as what you don't have and what you're not able to do. Use that as a way to elevate it and figure out ways to make things happen.
Right. That's awesome. And I'm glad you spoke to social media too, because based on like the work that you do, I'm quite sure that social media is a big asset to you. So can you share with us in what ways do you use social media in your career?
Definitely. With social media, I tailor it to content that I want to see and content that's around my career. So me working, because when I was at Jordan, I was doing digital media. I was doing social media for 3 years. So it's like understanding who are those influencers, who are giving you those positive messages, who are those sneaker folks, right? Who are those highlights? It's all about putting out there what you want to see, right? What we fail to realize is like, hey, we create our own social timeline. So if you want to see horrible content, if you want to see fights, if you want to see negativity all day, that's who you're choosing to follow. But if you use social media as a positive light, then you're good to go. And that's kind of how I use it for my job, where I stay relevant because I use social media and I cater my timeline to make sure I'm still ahead of the curve. Even though I'm a little bit older, I still need to know what Gen Z is doing, right? I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm out here doing TikTok dances, but I know where to find it. I know where to find those influencers. And that's how you do it with your everyday life. If you want to learn more about marketing, follow marketing accounts. If you want to learn more, if you want to become a teacher, follow positive teachers that you see. If you want to become a musician, follow musicians that you want to follow. It's just all about creating what you want and using social media as a positive tool, despite all the negative that's out there.
Oh, I love it. Like taking control and creating the narrative that adds benefit to where you're going. Totally love it. Awesome. So our next question, if there is one person in your youth that spoke to your gift before you could realize it, who was it and when?
That's a great question. I'm an only child, so I would think probably one of my older cousins would speak to it, because he always had that passion for it. He always spoke that confidence and gave me that confidence, right? So even though I'm thinking I'm just hanging out, he was always giving me the encouragement, right? I think I'm just hanging around him and we're just chilling as cousins. It's like, no, he's pouring into me, giving me time, giving me game, right? And I look back at it, I'm like, oh, I was learning game the whole time when I'm thinking we're just playing Madden and watching a basketball game. It's like, no, he's teaching things and he's pouring into me. And I feel like now as kids who are younger, it's like, understand, like, a lot of things you may not get right now, when you look back at it, you be like, oh, they're putting on game. So who's that older person in your life who's trying to teach you and show you some things, right? Who's that older person's like, hey, take a ride with me, let me show you a different life, right? Why don't you read this? When people tell you to read something or look into something, they're doing it for a reason, and they're trying to give you that medicine, where when you figure it out, when the time is right, you're like, I get it. So I think it's just more so understanding that, hey, you may not get it now, but when there's positive people in your life trying to tell you to do certain things, it's not because they're trying to be tough. It's not like teachers are trying to be annoying. They see something in you and they want to make sure it comes out in a positive light.
Absolutely. Definitely love that. And like you said, no, they're not trying to annoy you. Like, take the meat. I always say, chew the meat, spit out the bones, because sometimes we have people that it just feels like a lot of pressure, but all of that is valuable. They've been there before, they've experienced it, or they can see that little thing in you that you may not see. And I think a lot of the younger kids that I'm able to spend time with and experience with, the way that they navigate social media, the way that they navigate like video content and just content in general, it's second nature to them. Exactly. And they're not realizing that, you're giving out free content to people. They're posting in. You all you care about is the likes. And it's like, this is an industry. That is the gift, to be able to know that, oh, I'm going to create something and it's going to spark like all of this attention, and also using that in a positive way, like using that for a good influence as well.
It's okay to be different, right? It's understanding. And I learned that early on, right? Where my friends, it's funny, they used to call me a ghetto nerd because I was getting buckets on the court. I was wearing Jordans, but I know when I got home, I was doing my homework, right? And I did not let that affect me. It's just like, hey, I know I was on for something different. So it's like, how do you make sure you lean in where you can still have fun? I had a great time. I was still an athlete, but I also understood the bigger picture. And that's making sure it's like, it's okay to be different. It's okay to use those tools. And like you said, when I came up, I had to go. It's like college. You had to go to college and make it happen. Now, you may not have to go to college if you understand social media as a 13, 14-year-old. You may be making big money by 18, and I might be putting you in a campaign.
Right.
You never know. But if you're thinking above when other kids of your age aren't thinking like that right now, you're going to be ahead of the game, because you could be making money at 18 and Nike could be calling you and it's like, hey, we want to feature you in a campaign.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So get y'all minds ready. Now is the time. Really, I always say, like, expand yourself, tap into all of your gifts. If you can paint, draw, sing, try them all. Get into it and really see what sticks, what inspires you. Don't be afraid to change. Don't be afraid to pivot. Don't be afraid of what people are saying about you. Understand what's important. Your grades are what's most important at this moment, of course. But yeah, definitely get into it. Yeah. And so I have one more question, and then we're going to give them a bonus question. The last question is, what ignited your spark?
I mean, I will say just literally watching MJ on the court and seeing how good those shoes look, and then seeing a commercial afterwards. That commercial was crazy. Then looking at a magazine and seeing the ad in the magazine, right? It was all tied together. And you could blame that on marketing. Like, they did their job. They had me hooked. but it just let me know like this is what I wanted to do. And it got to a point where even before I got into the industry, I had a book where I would write down ideas, right? So I knew I wanted to get into marketing and work for a company. So before I even got to Reebok, I would come up with a book, I would see commercials, and then I would create my own commercials. Like, oh, I would do it this way. I will market this shoe this way, right? So when it's not about getting ready, it's about staying ready. So when I knew I had opportunities, I was good to go. So it's like younger kids here on this call, like if you know what you want to do or you see how you can make change, write that down, come up with concepts. Because to my earlier point, if I do a program for Kids Foot Locker, we're looking for kid influence, right? So it's like you don't even have to wait till you're 18 if you're doing the right things now and you're 12, 13, making waves. There's still opportunities out there for you. So you can still change the world and take that spark. So it's like whatever spark you have currently, keep that spark going because you never know where it can take you, especially in this digital world where everything is on social and everything is a lot more close. It used to be 6 degrees of separation. Now it's probably like two or three because everybody's close.
Literally, you can reach out like,
Exactly.
Absolutely. I love that. Oh my God. And there was something else that you said that I really wanted to speak to and it totally just slipped my mind. But I'm hoping that they gain from this conversation. Oh, there we go. Look, there it is. Hoping that they gain from this conversation, which is the biggest piece that I gained, is that a part of the skill set is also viewing yourself as more than a consumer, right? Because I think sometimes, especially for those of us who come from minority communities, we see all of these things that we desire and that we want, like Nike and Jordan, and we never think, how can I change this? Like I'm looking at this Michael Kors purse right now and it's stuff. So it's like, how can I change this? If I were a designer, this is how I would do it. And, really putting yourself in that space. Like you said, you had your book of ideas. You never thought of yourself as only a consumer to where I just buy it the way that it is. And if I don't like it, I won't buy it. Right. It's like, I love this so much. And I think that this is James Baldwin quote that said he loved America so much. That's why he was adamant about criticizing America.
Of course. And that's what you do.
Right. I love it so much that I want to take it apart and be the person who puts it back together.
Exactly. And we can do that. It's like, hey, if you're into music, how can you change up a song or create something better? If you want to be a teacher, how can you teach minority kids much better than currently how it's being done? There's ways to shake up the system, and we haven't learned anything from 2020. None of this, all of this can change in an instant, and we have power. So it's just a point of understanding that the youth have the power, and just because you're a middle school student now doesn't mean you can't make change the world, and make somebody like myself or somebody in the older generations listen. So it's just all about taking that control and taking that power. No, you're not just a consumer. Be a maker, be a creator, and don't just be a consumer.
That's it right there. Be a maker.
Exactly.
So I think that this was so awesome. And I hope that the kids enjoyed it as much as I have. But just for a bonus squeeze, let's close out by sharing with them what is a day in the life of Richard Palmer, brand manager, look like? Like, what does day-to-day operations look like for you?
That's why I love my job, because there's not one set day, right? Depending on what's going on, I can be at NBA All-Star. So when it was in Chicago last year before COVID, I spent the day on set shooting content and at our brand space for NBA All-Star weekend. There's been times when I worked at Jordan where I would interview Travis Scott, or I was, what else did I do? I did social media with DJ Khaled, or I did a photo shoot with Carmelo Anthony in Oklahoma City, right? So it's just letting you know that there's different things that you can do. Like my day is not the same, and I like that. Now, since we're in COVID, a lot of my days are spent on Zoom, unfortunately. But when the world opens back up, that will allow me to get back on set, get back to travel, dealing with athletes, entertainers, and creating change, and then working with HBCU students as well to make sure that our stories are being told in an authentic way. So to answer, I know I answered in a long way where I don't have a set day, but that's the point of the job, where every day is unique, every day is different, and that's why I enjoy it.
That was awesome. That was awesome. So I hope that you guys have enjoyed the entire Sparks curriculum. This is the end, but you don't have to go. Definitely stay engaged with 4-H. Definitely stay connected with your county extension agents on what future opportunities look like being participants with 4-H, because there are so many possibilities out there, and we know that you all have really big dreams. And in this exercise, our hope is that you explore your spark and that we can help you take it to the next level, that you continue to surround yourselves with great people, great peers, your teachers, and your family members who also can help push your spark to the next level. I am signing out. I'm Kristen Wells Lewis, the Dallas County Extension Agent, and we've just ignited your spark.